You've probably come across this image online. It looks like something out of a nightmare, or straight from hell. It's one of the most brutal and shocking scenes anime has ever shown us. But where does it come from? Who could have imagined something this horrifying? And why does it still hit so hard? Today we're exploring the true story behind one of the most disturbing anime films ever made, Barefoot Gen. To really understand this 1983 film, we have to go back to one of the most devastating events in human history, the atomic attack on Hiroshima. By mid-1945, World War II was drawing to a close. Even so, fear remained in cities across Europe and Asia. Japan had been enduring relentless bombings by the US Air Force, leveling entire cities and leaving mass death in their wake. Even in the middle of all that unbearable tension, no Japanese citizen could have imagined what was about to happen on August 6th of that year. The B-29 bomber Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima. The mushroom cloud became a lasting symbol of destruction and horror. Buildings, streets, fields, everything was completely destroyed. Between 70,000 and 80,000 people died instantly from the blast and the heat. That number would rise to 166,000, as many more fell victim to burns, radiation sickness, and other critical injuries. The attack on Hiroshima became a defining symbol of the horrors of World War II and of war itself. And yet, despite the massive devastation, some people found a way to survive. One of them was the real-life protagonist and the mind behind this story, Keiji Nakazawa. Although he was just a mile away from ground zero, Kenji escaped with only minor injuries. He was 6 years old when the bomb took the lives of his father and two of his brothers. He eventually found his mother, and together they had to survive amid destruction and poverty. Even after World War II had ended, much of Japan was still in ruins. Kenji was forced to grow up fast, shaped by everything he'd been through. But he held on to a sense of innocence and found an escape: mangas. He became especially drawn to the works of Osamu Tezuka, whose adventure stories often carried reflections on war. He also never forgot his father, an artist and activist. Inspired by both, Kenji began creating his own drawings. By the 1960s, Nakazawa was living in Tokyo and making a name for himself as a rising mangaka. He focused on stories about adventure, sports, and science fiction, but he never forgot his roots. In 1966, he returned to Hiroshima after his mother's death. During the cremation, he noticed there were almost no bones left. He believed the radiation had affected her all the way down to her bones. As he said goodbye to his mother, Nakazawa realized something else. He had never spoken about his childhood. He had learned to stay quiet because Japanese society refused to face the bomb or the war. The country's leaders embraced peace and focused on rebuilding the nation, even signing alliances with the United States. Another reason for staying silent was the general paranoia. Many believed Hiroshima survivors could transmit radiation-related diseases. The Japanese media didn't help either. They simply avoided the subject altogether. Although Nakazawa was a pacifist, he despised the way his country tried to bury the past. He felt trapped by the silence and wanted to scream his pain, but didn't know how. He found his answer in a new generation of artists who were challenging taboos. Paintings, books, and films began to surface, each exploring in its own way the scars left by World War II and the reach of nuclear weapons. In manga, the clearest example was Tetsuya Atom, better known as Astro Boy. Those raw and fearless works inspired Nakazawa. He stopped staying silent and set out to create a manga about the bomb and the war. Not long after, he published a story about young people in post-war Hiroshima caught up in the world of illegal weapons. Nakazawa wasn't sure how the public would respond, but the manga was a success, and he eventually completed the saga in 5 volumes. In 1972, Monthly Shonen Jump asked him to create something similar, but told from a first-person perspective, revealing his own story. At first, he didn't feel ready to take on such a personal project, but Jump editor Tadasu Nagano convinced him. The result was Ore wa Mita, which also became a hit. Nakazawa was surprised and deeply satisfied. He had created something profoundly personal, worlds apart from the light entertainment stories he used to tell, and readers responded with genuine interest. His editor saw it too, and encouraged him to take the idea behind Ore wa Mita even further, offering him full freedom over the length and scope. That's when Nakazawa wrote and illustrated a manga, where he poured out all the fear and rage that had tormented him for years. Hadashi no Gen, known in the West as Barefoot Gen. The story centers on Gen Nakaoka, a 6-year-old boy living with his family in Hiroshima. It's 1945, World War II is drawing to a close, but food is running low, and the atmosphere feels heavy and grim. Nearby cities are being bombed by American planes. Gen's father is a fierce critic of the war, while his older brother Koji joins the Imperial Navy. Gen's life is already difficult, but everything gets worse after the atomic bomb. Only he and his mother, who is pregnant, manage to survive. The shock triggers early labor, and she gives birth to a baby girl they name Tomoko. From that moment on, Gen has to find ways to survive among the rubble and the dead, scavenging for food and taking odd jobs to earn a little money. He supports his family and meets other survivors, though not all of them have good intentions. He's thrown into dangerous, emotionally intense situations that force him to grow up overnight. Through his words and drawings, Nakazawa created a manga that was raw, honest, and painfully true to the nightmare he had lived. At the same time, he managed to convey the humanity, resilience, and hope that he and his mother had clung to during those darkest days. He had created something deeply personal, but how would readers react? Publishing Barefoot Gen wasn't easy for Nakazawa. After Nagano was moved to a different position at Jump, the new editor decided to cancel the series. Nakazawa spent years going from one magazine to another, until he finally managed to publish all 10 volumes he had planned from the start. But the sacrifice paid off. Barefoot Gen went beyond literature and became a cultural phenomenon. It sparked debate and raised awareness about the hell that had fallen upon Hiroshima. Readers connected not only with young, brave Gen, but also with the clear picture of a society thrown into chaos. And the impact wasn't limited to Japan. In 1976, a group of students calling themselves Project Gen translated the manga into English. Within months, editions had reached readers around the world. The success of Barefoot Gen was clear, but Nakazawa stayed careful. He knew the topic was sensitive and that he might face threats, so he warned his wife to be alert in case of any hostility. To his surprise, even the most extreme political groups admitted to crying over the manga's pages. He also received positive feedback from the Communist Party, which invited him to join. While Nakazawa sympathized with their cause, he preferred to stay away from political organizations. Barefoot Gen also caught the attention of the film industry, and this time, Nakazawa was on board. Director Tengo Yamada set out to make an ambitious live-action trilogy: Barefoot Gen, Explosion of Tears, and Barefoot Gen, Part 3, Battle of Hiroshima. The films generated some buzz when they premiered, but were soon forgotten. The opera adaptation, staged in 1981, didn't leave much of an impression either. But soon, the chance for a new adaptation came along. This time as an animated film, and far more brutal than anything the live-action versions had dared to show. The idea of turning Barefoot Gen into an animated film was picked up by Madhouse Inc., one of the most prolific animation studios in the industry. Until then, they'd mainly focused on TV, with series like Eiso Narai, Manga Sekai Mukashi Banashi, and Treasure Island. But in the early 80s, they started venturing into feature films, kicking things off with Unico. Still, Barefoot Gen was a daring move, and the pressure to get it right was intense. The first decision was to bring in Nakazawa himself to adapt the manga. He understood that animation had no limits. This wasn't just a chance to stay true to his story, it was an opportunity to elevate its visuals and storytelling like never before. To make a truly impactful film, Madhouse needed a director who was up to the task, and they had just the right person in their own ranks: Mori Masaki. A veteran of the industry, he had worked on Kimba the White Lion, the first color anime series, and a worldwide success. Since joining Madhouse in 1979, he had directed 2 feature films, Natsu no Tobara and Hagure Gumo. When the offer came, he couldn't say no. Masaki was a longtime admirer of Barefoot Gen and Nakazawa. Like the author, he believed the film had to stay as close as possible to the original story, graphic details and all, if it was going to make people truly understand. To make this new adaptation of Barefoot Gen truly unforgettable, Masaki brought together a team of animators who didn't hold back. No one hesitated to draw scenes of men, women, children, even animals being torn apart by the blast or slowly wasting away from radiation. Barefoot Gen premiered on July 21, 1983. Nakazawa, Masaki, and the team at Madhouse were simply hoping it would connect with fans of the manga. But the film went far beyond that. It was a success. Audiences were met with a story even more devastating than the comics panels, without losing its thread of hope or its anti-war message. But the release didn't come without controversy. Many adults took their children to see it, only for the kids to leave the theater visibly shaken, especially after the scene where characters are torn apart by the blast. When Nakazawa heard that children were coming out of the screenings, screaming and crying, he didn't hold back. He said, "Thank you. Now they know the true horror of the atomic bomb." Barefoot Gen was a commercial hit, and no one walked away from it unaffected. Still, for years it was buried under the rise of other Japanese animation hits, with Studio Ghibli leading the charge. That began to shift in the 90s when Streamlined Pictures subtitled the film in English, giving it a chance to reach international audiences. But once again, it didn't take long for newer titles from Asia to steal the spotlight. It looked like Barefoot Gen's journey had come to an end, until it was rediscovered in the most unexpected way. In the early 2000s, plenty of young people, and not so young ones, dove into the depths of the internet looking for offbeat videos, or better said, for extreme thrills, clips that could spark both disgust and fascination. Just a few specific search terms were enough to bring up truly disturbing images, and when they thought nothing could shock them anymore, they stumbled onto a pandemonium of bodies morphing into monsters before melting away. Yes, the bomb scene from Barefoot Gen. It may have been animated, but it felt more brutal than most real-life gore. It stunned an entire new generation and haunted their sleep for weeks. Those images sparked all kinds of reactions. Some people turned away in shock. Others were compelled to trace them back to their source. That's how they found Masaki's film and fell in love with it. They posted reviews on YouTube, TikTok, and online forums, calling it the most disturbing movie ever made. In doing so, they pulled in a new wave of morbidly curious internet users. Soon, many of them discovered Nakazawa's manga and the real story behind it, opening their eyes to what had actually happened in Hiroshima. Thanks to that brutal sequence, Barefoot Gen found new life. But its impact goes even deeper. Hiroshima, Barefoot Gen marked a turning point. It opened the door for bigger films about Hiroshima in World War II, like Grave of the Fireflies by Isao Takahata. In fact, Ghibli's entire body of work would carry that same anti-war spirit. The manga also got a TV adaptation in 2007. The film also helped launch the careers of those behind it. Madhouse cemented its place as one of the strongest animation studios in the game, later producing iconic series like Death Note and the films of Satoshi Kon. They also released Barefoot Gen 2 in 1986, which follows the main character as he joins a group of orphans trying to rebuild Hiroshima. Although it earned solid reviews, it never reached the impact of the original. Director Mori Masaki stayed with Madhouse for a while, but stepped away from anime in 1986. He went back to drawing manga through the 90s. While he never became as well known as legends like Hayao Miyazaki, he's still deeply respected among anime circles. More than anything, the anime adaptation of Barefoot Gen transformed Keiji Nakazawa's life. He kept working on manga, but also explored other creative formats. Over time, he became a beloved figure, not just among comic fans, but with the public at large. At his peak, he gave up to 25 talks a year, sharing Gen's story and advocating for peace. He was always moved to find that many in the audience had never heard Hiroshima's story told firsthand. Nakazawa passed away in 2012 from lung cancer, but to this day, he remains a revered figure around the world. Barefoot Gen started as an autobiographical project and ended up leaving a mark on the world. It's proof that even in the darkest chapters of history, something beautiful and deeply human can emerge through art. And most of all, it's a reminder. Even the most disturbing images online have a story worth telling. John Wick is the most badass and surprisingly heartfelt action movie of the last decade. The hitman played by Keanu Reeves and his no-mercy mission to avenge his dog's death instantly connected with a growing army of fans.